Youssef stood by his old car at the airport, holding a sign with 3 names written in neat letters. He was 62 years old, with gray hair and kind eyes that had seen many things. His jacket was worn but clean. He had been a driver for 5 years now, and he knew his job well. Be polite, be quiet, and stay invisible. 3 men in expensive suits walked toward him. Marcus was tall with slicked back hair. Richard wore gold cufflinks that caught the light. James was younger, always checking his phone. They barely looked at Youssef. "Is this our ride?" Marcus said, not to Youssef but to Richard. "Apparently," Richard laughed. "At least he looks harmless." They spoke in English, loud and careless. Youssef opened the trunk and reached for their bags. Marcus tossed his suitcase without looking. It hit Youssef's shin. He didn't flinch. "Careful with that one," Richard said, pointing at a leather bag. "It's worth more than this guy makes in a year." James snorted. "Probably more than he's ever seen." Youssef loaded the bags carefully, one by one. His face showed nothing. As he closed the trunk, Marcus laughed again. "At least this one doesn't understand English. Makes the ride easier, right?" For just a second, Youssef's eyes flickered. Then he opened the back door and said nothing. The car pulled away from the airport. Youssef drove smoothly, his hands steady on the wheel. In the back seat, the 3 men talked like he wasn't there. "This merger better go through," Marcus said. $300 million is on the line." "It will," Richard replied. "The Sheik's people are desperate for foreign investment. We've got them right where we want them." James looked at his watch. "We have to reach the Al Rahman estate by sunset. That's when the signing happens. If we're late, the deal dies." Marcus glanced out the window. "How long is this drive supposed to take?" 2 hours, Richard said. "We'll be fine." They laughed about their competitors. They mocked the country's roads, its customs, its people. Richard made a joke about Youssef's worn jacket. "I bet he's never seen $100, let alone 100 million, he said. The others laughed. Youssef adjusted the rearview mirror quietly. Then Marcus frowned. "Wait. We've been driving for 45 minutes. Shouldn't we be on the highway by now?" Richard looked around. "Please. Mountains." There was a narrow road that wound upwards. "Where the hell is he taking us?" Marcus said louder now. Youssef said nothing. He kept driving. James leaned forward. "Hey, driver. Are you sure you know the way?" Still Youssef was silent. The road grew narrower. Richard pulled out his phone. "No signal." Marcus checked his too. "Mine's dead as well. What is this place?" The paved road had ended. Now they were on dirt, climbing higher into the mountains. The car rocked gently over stones. Tall cliffs rose on one side. On the other side, a steep drop plunged into darkness. "This can't be right," James said, his voice tight with worry. Marcus shouted, "Hey, old man. Where are we?" Youssef didn't answer. Richard's face turned red. "If you've gotten us lost, I swear I'll have your license revoked. I'll have you arrested." James checked his watch. "We have 3 hours. If we don't get there in time, we lose everything." The GPS screen blinked. No signal available. Ahead, the road split into 3 dirt paths. All of them disappeared into the mountains. No signs. No markers. Just stone and shadow. Marcus slammed his hand on the seat. "Turn around. Now." Youssef slowed the car. Then he stopped completely. He turned off the engine. Silence filled the car like water filling a sinking ship. "What are you doing?" Marcus screamed. "Drive. We're running out of time." Youssef sat still, his hands resting on the wheel. He looked into the rearview mirror, meeting their eyes for the first time. And then, in perfect English, he spoke. "Gentlemen," Youssef said, his voice calm and clear, "I understand every word you've said since the airport." The 3 men froze. His accent was British and refined, nothing like they expected. "And right now you have a choice. You can continue disrespecting me, or you can let me save your deal." Marcus's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Richard stammered. You speak English? 7 languages, actually, Yusef said. Fluently. James stared, his face pale. Yusef turned in his seat to face them. The main highway is blocked. A landslide 3 hours ago. No one told you because you didn't ask. The only way to reach Alramon Estate is through these mountains. And this route hasn't been used in years. Only the locals remember it. Why didn't you say something earlier? Marcus whispered. Yusef's expression didn't change. Would you have listened? Silence. There are 3 paths ahead, Yusef continued. One leads to the estate. The other 2 lead to cliffs. No signs. No GPS. Just memory. He paused. So choose wisely, gentlemen. Who do you trust now? Marcus swallowed hard. We apologize. We were wrong. Completely wrong. Yusef studied him. Then he started the engine. Apologies are words, he said. Let's see if your actions match. He drove forward, choosing the middle path without hesitation. The road was barely there at all. Rocks jutted up through the dirt. The car steadily ascended, winding around the mountain like a serpent. On the right, the cliff dropped hundreds of feet into darkness. Yusef drove with absolute focus. He didn't hurry. He didn't hesitate. Every turn was precise. Richard pulled out an old map he'd stuffed in his briefcase. Wait, he said, pointing. According to this, we should go left at the next fork. Yusef glanced at the map. That map is 10 years old. So, Richard said, defensive. It's still a map. That path was destroyed in the earthquake of 2019, Yusef said calmly. Richard's jaw tightened. I think I can read a map, thank you. They reached the fork. Yusef slowed. Richard pointed left. There. That's the route. Yusef didn't argue. He turned left. After 2 minutes, the road opened up. And there ahead of them was a bridge. Or what was left of one. The stone had collapsed into the ravine below, leaving only jagged edges and empty air. Richard went silent. Yusef reversed expertly, turned, and took the right path instead. James spoke quietly. Who are you? Yusef's eyes met his in the mirror. Someone you should have asked about before you judged. The car climbed higher into the mountains, and the 3 men sat in silence. They passed a group of shepherds standing by the roadside with their goats. Yusef stopped the car and stepped out. He spoke to them in a language the executives didn't recognize. Fast, musical, and full of gestures. After a moment he returned. There's a storm coming, Yusef said. A bad one. We need to move faster. Marcus asked. What language was that? Yusef described it as a regional dialect. Not many people speak it anymore. James leaned forward. How many languages do you actually know? 7 fluently. 3 conversationally. Richard, humbled now, asked carefully. What did you do before driving? Yusef's eyes stayed on the road. I was a driver when you met me. That's all you needed to know. The sky darkened. Clouds rolled over the mountains like smoke. Thunder rumbled in the distance. We need to reach the estate before the rain starts, Yusef said. In these mountains, rain turns roads into rivers. He depressed the gas pedal. The car moved faster, but it was still controlled and safe. Then the storm broke. Rain hammered the windshield. The dirt road turned to mud instantly. The tires slipped. The car slid sideways, toward the edge of the cliff. Marcus shouted. James grabbed the seat. But Yusef didn't panic. He turned the wheel gently, letting the car glide before regaining traction. Slowly, steadily, he guided them back to the center of the road. His hands never shook. The rain pounded like fists on the roof. Yusef drove through it with the focus of a surgeon. He didn't speak. Every muscle in his body was tuned to the road. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. How do you know these roads so well? Yusef was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I was a diplomat for 22 years. The executive stared. I brokered peace treaties in these mountains, Yusef continued, his voice soft. Between warlords. Between corporations and governments. I negotiated water rights, land disputes, and hostage releases. I spent half my life in these hills. Richard asked gently. Then why are you driving a car now? Yusef's hands tightened on the wheel. My daughter was killed in an accident 5 years ago. The other driver was a diplomat's son. He had immunity. No trial. No justice. I couldn't stay in that world anymore. His voice cracked just slightly. Some days, driving is all I can manage. The car reached stable ground. The executives sat in silence, shame heavy in the air. Then James noticed something. A photograph was neatly tucked into Yusef's sun visor. The photograph showed a young woman wearing a bright smile. A man in his 30s stood next to the young woman. The man bore a striking resemblance to James's father. James's heart stopped. That photo, he whispered. Who is that man? Yusef glanced at the photo. That was taken in 1987. I negotiated the release of hostages held by militants in these mountains. One of them was an American engineer. I drove him to safety myself. I put my own life in danger to rescue him. James's hands trembled. He pulled out his phone. The signal flickered back for a moment. He scrolled through his photos and held one up. Is this him? James asked, his voice shaking. Yusef looked. His eyes widened. That's him. James's throat tightened. That's my father. The car went silent. He told me a story once, James said, tears in his eyes. He recounted a story about a diplomat who miraculously saved his life, who drove him through enemy territory when no one else would. He said he never learned the man's name. He searched for years. Yusef pulled the car to the side of the road. He turned to look at James fully. Your father, Yusef said softly, is the reason I believed that diplomacy mattered. He thanked me. He told me that I had given him a future. I never forgot that. James covered his face with his hands. And we treated you like. He couldn't finish. Yusef's voice was quiet but firm. The question isn't what you did. It's what you'll do now. He started the car again. The storm was clearing. Ahead the road widened. The rain slowed to a drizzle. Visibility improved. But Yusef stopped the car once more. He turned to face the 3 men. In these mountains, Yusef said, we have a saying, the man who walks with arrogance walks alone into the abyss. He looked at each of them. You have power, money, influence, but you've forgotten something important. Respect. It's not for me. It's for everyone you consider beneath you. Marcus's voice broke. I'm ashamed. Truly. Richard nodded, tears on his cheeks. We were cruel, stupid, blind. James said, I don't know how to make this right. Yusef studied them. Then he said, the sheik you're about to meet is a man who values honor above profit. If you walk into his home the way you were at the airport, you'll lose everything. Not because of the deal. This is due to the essence of your character. He restarted the engine. So prove you've changed. Not to me. To him. They drove the final stretch in silence. The mountains opened up into a valley. And there, glowing in the evening light, was the Al Rahman estate, a beautiful compound of white stone and fountains. They had made it. 10 minutes before sunset. Yusef parked the car. The 3 men stepped out, soaked and humbled. And that's when the sheik appeared. The sheik was an older man, dignified, with a silver beard and robes that flowed like water. He walked toward them with steady grace. Then he saw Yusef. His face broke into a wide smile. Yusef, the sheik called out. My old friend. He embraced Yusef warmly, kissing both his cheeks. The executives stood frozen. The sheik turned to them, his smile fading. You hired Yusef as a driver. Marcus stammered. We didn't know. This man, the sheik said, his voice hard now, Negotiated the water rights that saved my family's land 20 years ago. He is a hero in these mountains. And you treat him like a servant. Richard stepped forward. Your Excellency, we were wrong. Completely wrong. Yusuf saved us today. In more ways than one. The Sheikh's eyes narrowed. Before we talk business, I want to hear about your journey. And I want to hear it from Yusuf. Yusuf hesitated. Then he told the truth. He didn't humiliate them. He simply said they were lost, afraid, and learned something important along the way. The Sheikh listened carefully. Then he looked at the executives. Yusuf has spoken with grace, the Sheikh said. Now you speak. Tell me the truth. Marcus stepped forward. Everything he said is true. We were arrogant, disrespectful. We judged him without knowing him. Yusuf didn't just save our deal. He taught us something we'd forgotten, how to be decent. The Sheikh nodded slowly. Then we will proceed, but with one condition. He looked at Yusuf. You will be present at the signing. Not as a driver. As a consultant. As an equal. An hour later, Yusuf sat at a long wooden table. The executives sat across from him. The Sheikh's advisors filled the room. Contracts were spread out like maps. Yusuf had changed into a clean shirt the Sheikh provided. He looked different now. Not invisible. The negotiations began. The executives presented their offer. The Sheikh's team responded. There was tension. Certain clauses didn't sit well. Then Yusuf spoke. If I may, he said gently. Everyone turned to him. He meticulously elucidated why the local culture would view a particular clause as disrespectful. He suggested new wording. The Sheikh's advisors nodded. The tension eased. Richard leaned over to Marcus. We would have lost the deal right there. Yusuf translated not just words but meaning. He explained traditions, unspoken concerns. He emphasized the importance of factors that went beyond financial gain. Upon signing the contracts, it became evident that Yusuf played a crucial role in the deal's success. The Sheikh shook his hand. You haven't lost your touch, my friend. Then the Sheikh said, walk with me. Alone. The two men stepped outside into the courtyard. Fountains sparkled under the stars. The executives watched from the window, knowing something important was happening. But they couldn't hear the words. The Sheikh and Yusuf walked slowly around the fountain. The older man's voice was soft but serious. You've been in pain for too long, the Sheikh said. Yusuf didn't deny it. I have a proposal, the Sheikh continued. I need someone I trust to work with foreign investors. I need someone who is well-versed in both fields. I want you to be my cultural liaison. Permanent position. Salary. An office. Respect. Yusuf stopped walking. I don't know if I can. Why? Because I've been broken for so long, Yusuf whispered. I don't know if I remember how to be whole. The Sheikh placed a hand on his shoulder. Broken things, when mended, are stronger than before. Your daughter would not want you to disappear. She'd want you to live. To use your gifts. Yusuf's tears finally came. He wept quietly under the stars, and the Sheikh stood beside him, silent and steady. After a long moment, Yusuf nodded. I'll do it. The next morning Yusuf returned, not in his driver's uniform, but in a tailored suit the Sheikh had given him. He walked into the estate with his head high. The executives were waiting. When they saw him, James stood and applauded. Then Marcus. Then Richard. Yusuf smiled. For the first time in 5 years he felt like himself again. 2 days later, Yusuf returned to the airport to collect his things from the driver's lounge. He walked through the terminal in his new suit, carrying a briefcase. People stared. Whispers spread. The other drivers looked up in shock. Yusuf, the airport manager, who had barely acknowledged him before, rushed over. Mr. Yusuf, I heard the news. Congratulations on your new position. Yusuf nodded politely but didn't stop walking. Then he saw James, waiting by the passenger pickup area. James smiled and waved him over. I wanted to say goodbye properly, James said. And I wanted you to meet someone. He held up his phone. On the screen was an elderly man in a hospital bed, tears streaming down his face. Dad, James said. This is Youssef. This is Youssef, the man who saved your life. The old man on the screen wept. I never forgot you, he said. His voice weak but full of emotion. I searched for you for years. Youssef's own tears returned. You gave me hope once, he said. You reminded me why the work mattered. James wiped his eyes. I'm starting a scholarship, he said. I'm starting a scholarship in your daughter's name for young people who aspire to become diplomats. So her legacy lives on. Youssef couldn't speak. He just nodded, his heart full. James shook his hand. Thank you. For everything. Youssef walked away, and for the first time in years he felt light. Youssef stood in the same airport terminal where, just days ago, he'd been invisible. Now people made way for him. Security guards nodded respectfully. A young mother smiled at him as he passed. He walked to the driver's lounge one last time. His old colleagues gathered around. You're really leaving? One of them asked. I am, Youssef said. But I won't forget where I came from. He handed out envelopes, letters of recommendation he'd written for each of them. If any of you want something more, he said, come find me. There are opportunities for those willing to learn. One driver, a young man named Kareem, asked, Why are you helping us? Youssef smiled. Because someone once believed I mattered. And that changed everything. He left the lounge and walked outside into the sunlight. The mountains rose in the distance, the same mountains he'd driven through days ago. He thought of his daughter. He thought of the life he'd lost and the life he was stepping into now. And for the first time in 5 years, Youssef felt ready. He got into a car, not as a driver this time but as a passenger. The new driver greeted him warmly. Where to, sir? Youssef smiled. To the future. 6 months later, Youssef stood at a university podium. The auditorium was packed. Students, professors, diplomats, and drivers filled every seat. He told his story. The airport. The executives. The mountains. He halted the car at that precise moment. Every day, Youssef said, you pass people you don't see. Cleaner. The driver. The server. You assume their silence means they have nothing to say. But many of them speak languages you don't know. They carry pain you can't imagine. And they hold wisdom you desperately need. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. I'm starting a program, Youssef continued. It will train drivers, cleaners, and service workers in languages, diplomacy, and negotiation. It will give them pathways to new futures. Because everyone deserves to be seen. The room erupted in applause. People stood clapping, some wiping their eyes. After the speech, Youssef drove alone into the mountains. He parked by a small cemetery and walked to a grave covered in flowers. His daughter's name was carved into the stone. He knelt and placed fresh roses beside it. I'm living again, he whispered. Because of you. You have taught me that love is stronger than grief. The sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky gold and red. Youssef stood, took a deep breath, and walked back to his car. He had stopped being invisible. And he would make sure no one else had to be either.